I think we're live.
Yes, we are live.
We're live. I
Yep.
can call the meeting to order.
Correct.
So I'd like to say good afternoon to everyone. I'm Adele Imrie, Chair of the TCHC Board's Building Investment Finance and Audit Committee. And I'd like to welcome everyone to the public session of today's committee meeting, which we are holding to approve two time-sensitive matters that require expedited approval. I would like to thank the members for making themselves available for this special meeting, and would like to say that the need for these additional meetings is something that I would like to have us address in a future meeting. So I will begin with an acknowledgement that the land each of us is on as we hold this virtual meeting due to COVID is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples. It is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. And we also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit. During today's session, there are two reports that are being brought forward for approval, two contract awards for construction services for new tenant service hubs for groups 2 and 3, and a memorandum of understanding with Mabel Arts for a long-term lease and operating agreement. So I will look to our first item, which is the agenda. And I will ask if anyone has any additions or deletions or amendments to the agenda as it's been presented. I think it's coming on the screen now. So hearing no changes, I will ask if there are any conflicts of interest that any members have with any items on the agenda today. Okay, hearing none. Can I please have a motion to approve the public consent agenda as presented? Thanks, Nick, and thanks, Brian, for seconding. All in favor? Perfect. Motion has been passed, and I will move on to item number 3, which is the contractor award for construction services for the new tenant service hubs, groups 2 and 3, and I will turn that over to Alan.
Thank you, Madam Chair and BIFAC committee members. Today we're requesting your approval for 2 contracts for the construction of 7 new tenant service hubs, including some upgrades to tenant spaces as applicable. As you know, tenant service hubs are an integral part of our improving our service to our tenants and to bring the service that we provide our tenants closer to them. We're well on our way to our goal of having all 88 tenant service hubs up and running in a permanent or interim location by the end of the year. We have 3 hubs open. We've got 2 more opening this month, 43 in construction, and with this approval, we'll have another 11 awarded to shortly begin construction. The first part of this award is for 4 hubs for a value of $2.1 million. The second part of the award is for 3 hubs at a value of $1.5 million. I think it's important to note that these 7 hubs are part of 11 hubs that we previously tendered. However, when we received the bids on these ones, we felt that the bids we originally received were too high and they were outside of our acceptable range for these projects that we'd set. So we weren't prepared to award them, and we had the flexibility to re-tender them. So we did go back out to tender, and I'm pleased to report that they came in back at $1.45 million less than the original amounts we had received. When we sent out these 11 projects, we purposefully allowed the flexibility to award them in 3 groups to ensure we would not run into vendor capacity issues. The results in these 2 groups of projects being awarded to the next lowest bidder, and that's why we need the committee's approval. As noted, though, when we look at the overall pricing, we are well within our estimated range, demonstrating that we believe we're receiving value for money. Your approval is requested. What questions may I answer?
Does anyone have questions for Alan?
So is it my understanding, Alan, that the Cypress Group has already got contracts?
Correct. We were able to award those through, it fell within the PAC charter, so we were able to award those. without having to come to BIFAC. These ones, because we're not taking the lowest bid, because we purposefully are going to the next groups, this is why we're bringing it to this committee for approval.
And is that strictly on capacity issue?
That's exactly, yes, correct.
Great, thank you.
Okay.
you.
Do you want a motion?
So, can I just ask a couple of questions? So Alan, you said there were 11 that were overpriced and we've got 7 here. Have the other 4 been awarded, or are they still out
Yes.
for retendering?
No, they were awarded, but we were able to award them. Yeah, they were able to be awarded through PAC because they fell within the PAC charter.
Okay, and that's the
these
Cypress
ones
ones that Brian was referring to. Okay.
Correct.
And you talk about the 88 tenant service hubs, and 55 are being developed through this process, and the 33 are being developed through a separate design and construction process. What's the distinction between those 2 processes?
We're looking at, we have different ones that are, so we do have some modular hubs that we're doing. So there's just different, depending on, we've got modular hubs. We have ones that are part of new development, so they're not being done as part of this process. So that's the differences.
That's why they're broken up into 2 different groups. Okay.
Correct.
What's the definition of modular?
So definition of a modular hub is exactly what it sounds like. We're looking at, they're going to be a freestanding building on the site. They will be, it's a product. You buy the actual completed, it's completed in a factory, just like the modular, you may be seeing modular housing that's being done by the city. So they're designed and then they're constructed in a factory and then basically brought to the site to be assembled. And that's it's one of the most effective ways that we can do for the modular. The modular hubs we have to do in developments where we just weren't able to find any space to put a hub in the existing building.
Thank you.
And are they temporary, or are they
No.
permanent? They're permanent.
Yes, they're permanent. They will have all the facilities that the staff need. They'll be accessible for tenants. They're a modular construction, but they are absolutely a permanent construction, and we're not planning on them for being there for 5 years. We're planning on them from being there for the long term.
Okay.
So they would have all facilities in them.
Yes.
So did they all have to get zoning issues, or?
Yes, absolutely. We've been working with the planning department, and actually it's been great. The design and engineering team engaged with the city very early on, and we've actually been able to work with the planning department quite well on these. It's been a great collaboration.
And from the local tenant perspective, could you give me any feedback on their response to these modular, which will go on their sites and obviously may have some issues or concerns?
We haven't heard any concerns. And actually, what I have heard is more tenants that are excited to have either a modular hub or a hub in the building. They're waiting for them to open. They're very excited about it because they'll be able to get their service right then and there. Basically, they won't have to go anywhere. It's close. There's going to be an integrated team that's going to be right at their building. So everything that I've heard has been positive. Sorry, I shouldn't say everything. There have been a few buildings here and there, and nothing specific to modular, where we've had to work with the tenants because maybe they didn't like the location that was picked or whatever. But we worked with them, and I don't know of any that we haven't been able to make changes as requested by the tenants. So I think they're I think tenants, the majority of tenants are itching to get their hub in their building or on their site open.
I would imagine that the modular, to get them up and open, is a shorter time frame than full construction. So I imagine that tenants would be pleased with that.
They are. They're taking. They will take a little longer than what we're doing in buildings because.
Oh, I guess that would be, yeah.
Yeah, but they aren't. They're definitely not taking as long as what it would be as if we were going to be building, a brand new freestanding building on the property. So we're targeting that the modulars will be open probably Q2 of 2022. So not that far away when you think of. You've got to design it, you've got to get it approved, you've got to get it constructed, and then you got to get it to the site and connect it all. So, and I'm actually really excited to see a modular hub come together.
Just a question to Sheila. Actually, from a board perspective, it will be great, and I know we can't do it now, but as soon as it's safe to do, it would be nice to be able for board members to be able to go out and see how the hubs are located and how they're working and get a sense of being. So if we keep that in the back of our mind, I'd love to go out and see them and talk to the tenants in those locations.
We'd love to show them off too.
Yeah,
that's a great suggestion, Brian.
We had the first 39 buildings that had tenant leadership established, right? I had an opportunity one night to have a WebEx with 7 of them, 7 new tenant leaders in 7 of our hubs. They're very excited about the hubs opening, and we can't wait. It's as one of them said, an elderly guy, and he said, I'll be able to go down to my hub and pay my rent and get any questions that I have answered. I won't have to go on the TTC to a OU office and wait in line and have anyway. So we're looking forward to it. And the hubs right now, Alan said we have 3 that are open. They're open, but they're not open in the way that we want them to be open because of COVID.
Yeah.
So the tenants in those buildings are making appointments for service, but the hubs are staffed. The integrated teams are meeting virtually. There's a lot of, we did a lot of hub simulations, meaning that you came together with your team and problem solved different scenarios. We documented that. Integrated team training has happened over the last couple of months. So it's coming together.
Great.
Great. Are there any other questions for Alan? Nick?
Sorry, yeah, just rereading the memo in terms of picking the second lowest price. Really a capacity issue in terms of. Maybe did I misread it though? I didn't really feel like that came out in the recommendation, unless I glazed over that part, but I didn't really see it. But whether it's in there or not, we should just make sure that's noted in the minutes or what have you, or just because that to me is the key rationale for not going with the lowest bid. But maybe I missed that paragraph. I was just trying to rescan it again now, but you can't really focus on it. So it might very well be in there. So apologies if it is, but I didn't catch that. But
it isn't. It's on page 3 of 5, second from the last paragraph, in second sentence, to ensure capacity to deliver work. Anyway, it's absolutely because of capacity.
Yeah, so if I could maybe just recommend a slight change or minute in the minutes or something, just saying concerns about capacity, or a little bit more forceful wording, because that sort of comes across. It doesn't come across as a compelling reason when I read that. Whereas that's sort of the main driver. That's sort of the whole point.
Absolutely, yeah. We can. I'll leave it to Dara as to whether we should revise or just include it in the minutes, whatever.
Yeah.
What
We'll ensure that we
Well,
reflect it in the minutes.
Maybe
Like
you
this.
could just add it as another bullet in the recommendation.
Well, yeah, Dara, whatever you think. I don't know if it's worth reissuing the recommendation as opposed to just minuting it, that the discussion entailed the mitigating the risk of capacity was the key reason for accepting that bid.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you.
And we'll make sure that it's clear in the report that's going forward.
And
So-
do we have to note that in our motion, or can we?
So if the committee wants, I've slightly modified the motion.
Okay, thank you.
And I can put that up. So I've added, it is recommended that in order to ensure that vendors performing the work have the capacity to do so in a timely manner, the Building Investment Finance and Audit Committee approve the following recommendations. Does that satisfy the concern?
Yeah. Yeah, that's fine. I just wanted to make sure that was sort of well understood, because to me that's sort of the key point, and I didn't sort of interpret the report to mean that was sort of a key decision criteria for picking those bids.
Okay, so are you satisfied with that, the amendment to the motion, Nick?
Yeah, it seems
Perfect.
it seems good to me. Thank you.
Okay. And Brian, you're okay
Yep.
with that as well? Perfect. Okay, then can I have someone move the motion that Dara just put up on the screen?
I can put it back up if you want.
Okay.
It's
thank
okay.
you.
I think
Brian,
I think it's going to be Nick and me. Oh,
yeah, that's all I've got, Brian.
Thank you, everyone.
So Nick, seconder, all in favor? Thank you. So your motion's been approved, Alan. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
And we will move on to Mabel Arts, the long-term lease and operating agreement for parts of Mabel Park. And I'm going to turn this over to Sheila, our acting chief executive officer.
Thank you. So thank you, Madam Chair and committee members. This report is here in front of you today to seek approval to execute a binding memorandum of understanding and a long-term lease and operating agreement with a group called Mabel Arts for part of Mabel Park, which TCHC owns. Mabel Arts plans to build a clubhouse in the park that will offer year-round programming to TCHC tenants. So Mabel Arts is a group that has been providing service and award-winning community arts organization in Central Etobicoke since 2007. They've worked with professional artists, Etobicoke residents, to create free performances, workshops, and community events in parks and public spaces. They have also worked extensively with our Dundas Mabel communities for over 12 years. They've been conducting programming and special events in the park for 14 years. Mabel Arts has been able to secure $800,000 in Section 37 money through local city councillor Grimes, and they intend to use those funds to construct a clubhouse. The clubhouse, there's a drawing of it in your package. It's a small kind of little jewel of a building. It will provide a small multi-purpose arts and cultural center, includes 2 universal washrooms, indoor, outdoor, multi-purpose arts and performance space. So in terms of our tenants, that clubhouse will act as a space for our tenants to come together, build leadership skills, and continue to positively impact the community. The basic terms described, or you can see on the screen a drawing that shows you it's a pavilion, really, small building pavilion in the park that they're proposing to build. The basic terms, as outlined in the MOU, a 20-year ground lease at $1 a year for Mabel Arts to construct the permanent clubhouse. Mabel Arts will be solely responsible for all taxes, utilities, maintenance, capital, non-capital, repairs, insurance, operating, all other costs with respect to the leased premises. They will be, so we are leasing them basically the footprint that is under the building, and through this agreement, giving them an entitlement to use portions of the balance of the open area of the park, not to exceed 25%, with an up to an additional 10 special events per year, which can utilize 75% of the open area. Some open area must always be available to TCHC tenants, and Mabel Arts activities cannot impact the area of the benches in the southerly 1/3 of the park. They are entitled to make capital improvements to the open area subject to TCHC's approval. And this MOU is recommending a park committee with Mabel Arts staff, TCH staff, TCH tenants, and a representative from the councillor's office who will deal with any issues relating to Mabel Arts' use of the open area. And we are recommending that this committee be formed so that our tenants have the experience of sitting on a committee, a decision-making committee around the local park asset in their community. When this project was first proposed, Mabel Arts proposed to lease the entire park, and including the entire ground area. And the tenants were concerned, wanted to ensure that while they welcome the pavilion and the programming that it will provide, they wanted to ensure that they maintained access to the park and that they were involved in decision making, which they will be through this committee. Mabel Arts is required to provide an average of 50 hours of programming monthly to our tenants at no cost, and we will continue, TCH will continue to maintain the park at the same standard that we maintain all open spaces across the portfolio. This project has been discussed with the community, as I've outlined, and includes the support of our regional staff team, the local city councillor, and tenants. So we wanted to ensure that the committee, and when this makes its way to board, and the board understand the risks involved in this agreement. To date, Mabel Arts has raised just over $860,000 of the projected $1.6 million budget. With the approval of this MOU, they'll then be free to move forward on a fundraising campaign, a fairly well developed fundraising campaign to secure the balance of the funds. A condition in the MOU is that Mabel Arts provides evidence to TCH that it has secured all funding needed for construction, including funding to operate the project for at least 1 year at a cost estimate that supports the estimated construction budget. So Mabel Arts intends to fundraise for the balance of the funds, and our chair has wisely pointed out that fundraising dollars sometimes don't come to fruition, but Mabel Arts has assured us that they have the ability to raise the funds and are confident that they can pull the 1.6 million together. Another risk, there's an existing water feature that needs to be relocated. Mabel Arts has committed, it's a condition in the MOU, to do that at at their cost. And lastly, they are required to provide the necessary insurance. And with that, Madam Chair, I'll open it up for questions.
Brian?
Is that the moving of the water part of the 1.3?
We believe that it is on top of the 1.6.
Oh, sorry, 1.6.
Yeah.
And so that is additional money they would have to raise. I know sometimes moving those things are, I'm not sure of that situation, but can sometimes be costly.
Right, which is why we made it a condition in the MOU. It was something that came into focus for us as we moved through the development of the MOU, so we have added that as a condition.
And is it a condition that they excuse me, that they demonstrate they can raise the funds to do, I don't know what the design is and what the cost is, but that they can raise those funds to move the water feature?
That's correct.
Okay.
So they still have then about 740,000 to raise then plus the water.
That's correct.
So it's
So-
not an unsubstantial amount to raise. Could you, well, I got a couple of questions. One is the assumption is that the tenants are supportive.
Yes, and not just assumption, but has been validated by the community safety and support staff that are on site.
No, that was my assumption, not yours.
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
That's okay. How big is the building? How many square feet?
Oh, Brian, I should have that number. If you, here, I can do some quick math. If you look in your package at A04, it is the second to last page. You can see it's quite small. It is like 30.
I was trying to look at it at the design, but I couldn't tell from
Yeah,
this.
if you can advance there is another drawing in the package, A04.
Okay.
And you can see that the little pavilion, it's 10.9 meters, about 35 feet by, if you add those two, another 10 meters by 30 feet, it's about 1,000 to 1,200 square feet.
Okay.
So it's like the size of a good classroom, a big school classroom.
And just a little bit more about the organization itself. Obviously, is a nonprofit organization.
Correct?
It has been in existence for a while.
There's a little primer on
Maybe I
Mabel
missed
Arts. It's called their valuation of programs and capital improvements, background and history working with TCH, where they lay out who they are, what they've done since 2007, what they've raised, what the costs are. So I should also say that they have been in space in one of our buildings, offering program to tenants for a number of years, and they're well regarded.
Yeah, it says in the little primer that they were founded in 2007, Brian.
Okay, thank you.
It took over TCH community space at 5005 Dundas West, and they've operated there ever since.
I think it's a great opportunity, and I'm all for partnering with organizations like that to benefit the the local community and especially the tenants. Thank you.
Nick, do you have any questions?
Nothing from me, thanks.
Okay. And I think, Sheila, we talked about this, just that it reverts back to, the pavilion reverts back to TCHC at the end of the lease.
Correct.
And that'll be specified in the lease? Because it's
That will
not in
be-
the MOU. Oh,
Just-
It will be
Brian?
laid out in
So-
the lease.
Okay. Brian?
Nobody wants this, but from time to time, not-for-profits fail no matter how much their mission is and their good work, unfortunately. And I assume that if for some reason there is in the future some inability to, it would revert back to TCHC at that point if, for instance, they can't meet their obligations.
That's correct. But we
Thank
hope
you.
you do, because they offer good programs.
Yeah, no, I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm all very supportive of it. They're just,
Yeah.
unfortunately, the best laid plans,
Yes,
So-
yeah, and they are dependent on donations, so that is our risk, which Sheila has highlighted.
Yeah.
Are there any other questions for Sheila? Okay, could I have a motion to approve for recommendation to the board? Nick, thank you. Brian, thank you. All in favor? Great. Okay, so that's item number 4. So I will ask if anyone has any other business today. Okay, hearing none, can I have a motion to terminate the public meeting of BIFAC? Nick? Brian, thank you. All in favor? And thank you again for making yourselves available. I really appreciate it.
Thanks very much.
Right,
As
thank
do
you.
we.
Care.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sheila. Thanks.
Thanks, everyone.